Hey up guys, it's Rory from Enlighten the Shadows here, and we are a men's mental health group that is out there to support and make a difference. Our heart in Enlighten the Shadows is to create media, mindfulness and mentoring in a way we can really impact men's lives so that we can see them transform and utterly be supported and poured out love upon their lives. So it's, even if men are just struggling with a bit of stress and anxiety, or across the spectrum, all the way to if they feel like they just want to end their life or be suicidal. So if that's you, if you feel like you have no reason to live anymore, or you just need a little bit of support, if you need some guidance about how to better your life, some of your mindsets and your strategies, we'll be honoured to have you on the journey with us. And you'll just say, welcome to the brotherhood. We don't claim to have all the answers, but we are just here for you, extending that olive branch to see you flourish in your life. And we just say, have a go, give it a go. You never know what could happen. Have a great day. Cheers, guys.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to Enlighten the Shadows. Today is episode 55. Yes, you're thinking, what's this guy doing? He's got his medal. He's got his running clobber on. Well, today we have Ian Manning, who loves a bit of running. So I thought I'd come on here. We're talking about his mental health journey, and Ian vulnerably allowed me to say this. Ian was a little bit nervous. He's not done anything like this before. So I thought I would just relax him a little bit with my clobber and just let him know that I love the running vibes. It's absolutely minging today. It's 30 odd degrees. And you'll know which day we're recording because you know it's been that day. So I was getting this lighting sorted out, everyone, and literally it's just sweat coming down me. I was like, I don't even want to put a t-shirt. I was gonna go commando, just do it like nothing on, and you wouldn't know. But without further ado, Ian Manning's here with us today, saying he's got an amazing story. Before you do listen to his story, one quick thing: if you can subscribe to our channel, because we've got so many men, thousands, tens of thousands of men who are on YouTube that don't have any men's mental health support, that are looking for help and they don't know where to go. So if you could do that, it gives us more reach and we can get in and help them. So Ian Manning, brother, welcome to Enlighten the Shadows.
Thank you for having me. You're making me feel very at home with the attire. And yeah, what is it, the hottest day of the year, and I got a steady 8 miles in today as well. So yeah, I'm happy with that.
All right, flipping that, don't make us feel bad. Do you know what? Talking to you now, brother, and I've gone all out. I've got me bothered badge here, my marathon medal. I am actually going to go for a run tonight. I've moved house, and I'm kind of like, I don't know what routes to go, and I'm a bit of a snob as well. Do you know, like tarmac and your surface? Yeah. I love wide, new, smooth tarmac to run. Yeah, do you know those little stony rocks you get on old paths?
Yeah,
thin paths.
Nothing worse, mate. Nothing worse.
Old ankle sprainer after about 5-10 miles, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Can't be doing with them. So, bro, I'm gonna brave it and go out for a run later.
Do it, definitely.
So you've done an 8 miler then?
8 miles today, yeah. Nice and steady, yeah. But it was a warm one, that's for sure.
Yeah. So you would have done that in about an hour then?
Yeah, just over an hour.
So those who don't know, this guy, he's changed his life. It's unreal. But before we get there and talk about your journey, brother,
yeah, man.
For our viewers, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you get up to, and then we'll go straight into what growing up was like for you as a young lad?
Yeah, sound. Yeah, so I work as a prison officer. I've had a steady upbringing. You know, nothing too major. Football was my big thing when I was growing up. Claimed fame, played 5 or 6 seasons with Dwight Gale. I often say they picked the wrong one. Should have picked me instead.
Is that a bit of sour grapes there, brother?
A little. No, it was different gravy. But no.
On that note, sorry, I keep calling you up because you've got some content here. We can't just fly around and go straight through your life, really. This is good stuff. You've got a claim to fame. This is important.
This is it's true. No, it was 5, 6 seasons. What an absolute beast of a player, though. And then for me as a left back, when we went to the bigger pitches, 11 aside, left back, get the ball, look up, he's sitting on the halfway line, ping it over the top. Yeah,
it's through.
Dream
all day. They said on which Twitter account, it might have been Soccer AM the other day, they asked, who's the best player in Championship history, but not good enough for the Prem. And his name kept coming up loads.
I describe him as he's a Norwich, isn't he? He gets to the Prem, just can't cut it, comes back down, absolutely destroys it. But yeah, no, just unbelievable player.
Yeah.
And I hope he gets a move this year, and I hope that he kicks on. He's done it the hard way. He was when we were playing, it was Sunday League football, but he went off to Arsenal, dropped out of there, but then did it the hard way, come up, Stansted, non-league, all the way up, Peterborough, Crystal Palace, Newcastle, West Brom. But no, what a player, very good.
You made him, mate. You helped.
Exactly.
If it weren't for your pings,
exactly.
Without being big-headed, but
yeah, definitely.
Well, that's class, bro. So you said it's quite steady for you. Was Dad around? You have a father figure in your life a bit, or?
So that's probably the only thing that was a little bit unsteady. So my biological dad wasn't really in my life that much. Was kind of up until probably, well, we lived in London till I was about 14, and then when we moved up to where I am now, that's when the relationship kind of broke down a little bit. But then since I was him and my mum broke up when I was probably 3, but then not long after that, I had a stepdad that for me is my dad, So although I didn't have a great relationship and I haven't got a great relationship with my biological father, I've got probably the best father figure that I could ask for. And my stepdad literally treats me like he's my own, absolute top bloke.
That's amazing, bro. Love to hear that. How he's just slotted in and stepped up to the plate and being a great father, because it is
100%.
hard and it can be quite tough for blokes coming in. They call it baggage, don't they? Which is a horrible term, but that's what can put blokes off, is coming into a woman's life and you think, fresh start, but actually there's kids in the frame here, and it could be quite complicated, right? Because you've got the other fella to deal with, that the genetically, the blood dad of the children. Did you have any sisters, brothers, anything like that?
So when my mum and my stepdad, I've got from that relationship, I've got a sister, and then from the other side of my biological father and my stepmom, I've got a brother and a sister.
Awesome.
And to be fair, even like my stepmom, phenomenal, really, really good. Like I've been blessed in that respect, and family, yes, you're tied by blood, but it goes so much deeper. And I think sometimes not being, blood related and taking on that role, it can be so much of a stronger bond, because they want to be there.
Yeah, big time. So moving into teenage years, the Dwight Gale years of football. Did you learning about yourself as a lad, as a young man, and about being self-aware about where your head's at, how to process things, how to even process the loss almost of your dad, because that in a way is a bereavement itself. Did you kind of push that stuff down, or did you talk about it?
With in regards to my dad, it's nothing that I've never really spoke about it before. I brush it off quite easy and box it off that it doesn't matter. On one hand, it doesn't, but it's definitely something that I've not dealt with to a degree.
Yeah.
But I've got a 7-year-old son, and it's made me I think a fantastic dad, because I've learned from everything that he didn't do that I do, and it's just made me so much stronger. But it was it was tough. Although growing up, I football was everything, and I played week in, week out with mates and whatever else. But one big thing growing up, I always struggled with my weight, which is something we'll probably touch on a little bit later on. But very, very self-conscious growing up. I definitely had some battles back then, but I don't think it was in my teenage years. I don't think it was anything kind of mental health based. It was just very self-aware growing up.
Yeah, got you. Do you know, in terms of when you was at football, because you have all specs of lads, don't you? You get the skinny runts like me. They're freaking literally nothing on me, and I look at pictures actually of myself, and I look unwell. I was that skinny, but I was well nourished. My mum always fed me, and my dad wasn't around either. And then you got lads who always seem to be playing football but carried a bit of timber. Where would you put yourself, just for our viewers, so we can start, they can picture like where you're at in your life, and then processing all the things that you're saying.
It's quite funny. Something that will always stick with me was of how I would describe myself is that me and my family went away to Centre Parks and we played tennis, and I was absolutely all over the court, and I was playing my dad, and my dad described me as like Wayne Rooney, like bigger, but like you still got a bit of fitness there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was always on the bigger side. You know, and all of my mates, like my best mate now, you know, ex-pro footballer, you know, another really good mate was you know, was at Forest for a few years, and you know, real fit lads, and there was me kind of always like that chubby one, you know, described with a wand of a left foot, but I didn't have anything else. Fitness just wasn't really there as such. And yeah, but I was always the bigger lad that was okay. But yeah, I was always carrying a bit of weight.
So for our viewers and myself, like what point in your life did you get to where you've heard of even the word of mental health, or as a bloke, like, were you even aware of it? Like, what did happen to in your life? Was anything that, you know, there was a particular moment that made it crop up, or did you hear it and it was like a taboo subject?
So it was. I never really knew what mental health was. Probably in my early to mid 20s, I didn't really know what mental health was. I didn't really understand what it was. But I now know that I had those feelings of, you know, being depressed, anxiety, but really struggling with where to turn. You know, and having people close to you that I felt like I could turn to, um, and it just being shut down. Like it wasn't, you know, having some really negative comments towards myself about the way that I felt.
Yeah.
And that made me kind of suppress it even more. Like, yeah, it was just kind of like, I just need to get on with it. You know, it's not an option. This is just life. This is just the way that you feel. Just crack on with it.
Absolutely right. And I feel like I'm 33. So how old are you?
32, I'm
Yeah,
33
yeah.
now.
So right around our generation, I think was the last crop of, you know, young men where you were nurtured exactly in that kind of environment where we're having to undo all of the crap, basically. That's another way of calling it,
Yeah.
of people's mindsets and people's approaches to exactly how you felt as a young lad. And I think, like, you want to open up, you want to talk to people about it, but then you have all sorts, you know, a big plethora of responses and negativity that's piled in there, and all it does is just reinforce you just to not want to talk, you to like hold it all in, bottle it up, and it can make you more depressed, it can make you more anxious. And that's the work that we do at Enlighten and other great groups that are about, even locally, that we try and just big up Enlighten. I know you do the same, following their stuff and getting behind them. And that's what it's about. It's all creating a movement and all having your little cogs in the machine to just destroy this stigma that still exists. And I know a lot of people say that word, but it does sadly still exist, because, you know, what you've had to go through, like it still has an effect, I guess, if I was to have a you know, estimated guess, where you've trained your brain for so many years to react and act in certain ways about how you feel and what you can do about that. That sometimes you can't help it. If I don't know if that makes sense, but everything that's been like in this country, it's having to undo it and then retraining
100%.
yourself.
100%. You know, and I remember kind of getting to a really low point, but not knowing how to describe it, and saying to someone, you know, I don't even want to feel happy. I just want to feel content, and getting met with the response of, you know, this is life. You know, life's crap. You're not going to feel content. You're going to have rubbish, you know, rubbish days most of the time. You just got to get on with it. And, you know, that really hurt at the time, because, you know, when you're really suffering and you're trying to, you know, broach the subject and you know, to open it up, to hope that, you know, you was to say something to somebody for them to kind of, you know, for you to open up even more, but it just to get shut down, you know, even further. And, you know, with the same person, you know, further on, without jumping ahead too much, getting to the point where you saying, I'm feeling suicidal, and I got met with a response of, saying that you want to kill yourself is being a narcissist, and that, that really,
Wow.
really hurts, and that's somebody that isn't in my life anymore. I'm not gonna, name
No,
drop
no,
or
no.
whatever
Yeah, we're
else.
not about that, but
Um,
yeah.
but yeah, that really, really, looking back now, that really hit me quite hard.
And when this is the hard thing, when you've heard that and it's about you, that's really, really tough to recover from, to try and even go there with forgiving them. And now forgiveness isn't saying, all right, I forgive them, they're in my life still. Forgiveness sometimes has boundaries as well. But
Mhm.
I'm glad that you've put that in, brother. That's class. But that can cause so much damage when, well, it's a form of gaslighting as well, because you're basically essentially being told that what you feel isn't valid. Therefore, you're being selfish and you're a narcissist. It's just like, I'm really intrigued by people's viewpoints on that. Like, they have made that assumption that if you're suicidal, you're a narcissist. Like, where have they learned that from? They've learned that from somewhere in society that's said it's acceptable to have that viewpoint. And again, I'm almost repeating myself, but this is why we exist. Like,
Mm.
we try and keep men alive. Like, we do it around the clock. There's a lot of stuff that happens DM wise off our group of 570 odd men. I'll put it on the screen right now, because if any fellas are struggling, like, know this, we will never, ever, ever invalidate your feelings like Ian has bravely disclosed today. And all we'll do is love you. All we'll do is give you ears to listen and completely validate those feelings. So then we can get you to a point of accepting it, and then we can move forward when you're ready. We'll always be there for you. So yeah, just join our group, fellas. If you're struggling, please don't listen to those lies, because that's all they are. What they are, Ian, aren't they? They're essentially lies, because it's like I don't know you well, but I like to think that most people wouldn't say they're suicidal because they want to be suicidal, if that makes sense.
100%. It's not, it's not a throwaway comment that you're gonna make, and just to echo what you said, the work that you do and other groups, and if anybody's suffering, please reach out. But it's also really important for people that aren't suffering, to we need to make mental health more of a mainstream subject that hasn't got a taboo around it. And you know it's an education for everybody. We need to educate ourselves that these feelings exist. It's completely normal. It's completely fine. And we've got to be there for each other. But if you've got a partner or a child or anyone that's in your life that you think's suffering, try and educate yourself around it as well, because it's opening up is the hardest thing in the world. And if someone can open up, a lot of time people end up going, pop before they open up. But if we can get it to the point where that doesn't happen, and it can be an easy subject, not an easy subject, but an easier subject to talk
Yeah,
about, that's the aim.
definitely. And I think as well, on that note, of the brilliant point you've made is that then creates hesitation. So the effect is, like, yes, I agree. We've got to make it more mainstream, but I would also think that mental health is probably more publicized and more accessible than it ever has been. But what we have to do, a bit like what I said earlier, is undo all that hard work, because despite the fact that it is accessible, despite the fact that, me and you are having this podcast chat, and, we won't stop doing them, there's still out there the hesitation of men thinking, will I be believed? And do I dare even say it? Because if I do dare say it, will I be believed? And then lastly, C, out those 3 points, am I going to be helped? Like, really, am I going to be able to get better? Because if I like Pandora's box, if I open this up, like, there's no going back, as you know. And I know what that was like for you, because I remember when I was chatting, like, you called yourself. It wasn't the hesitation. It was the pretender.
Yeah.
So can you share with the viewers bravely, if you can, like, what that was like for you, as in, like, the pretender?
Yeah, so I would describe myself as the pretender, and that links up with work, and I was very, very good, at going in, and my whole demeanor would change. It was kind of like game face on, we're there, we do a job, You know, and it's difficult because I can't go into too much information, but when your head's full of these thoughts of, suicidal thoughts and depression and anxiety, and you're going in and you know, I'm dealing with some unbelievable people that are in unbelievable states of crisis, and you're seeing some of the most extreme self-harm that you could ever imagine. You're dealing with people that are making suicide attempts, and that it just, that's the downside to our job, that it just becomes normal. What I've seen and experienced, some things that it's just the most normal thing to me, that's the most horrific things for the people. But it was being the pretender of, yeah, I'm cool, I'm fine. I would be the one that always steps up to the plate. I'd be kind of the leader of the group. If anything was going off, I'd be the first one there. And it was kind of like, let's everything's cool, everything's fine. People would come to me for advice on anything, but it would just be in that I was pretending that much, that then when I would leave at the end of the day and I'd drop my radio and my keys, my whole life just fell apart, because I was like, right, I don't need to pretend anymore. I can just kind of crash. And over time, it just got worse and worse and worse.
And this is really good. Thank you for sharing that, man. Like, I've had a couple of times in the last few weeks moments where people do have visible ill mental health, and they're screaming and being aggressive about it. Like, I'm doing my job, and unfortunately that's a little bit like yours. You're putting boundaries in adults' life to ensure that we live in a better society, and so I do so politely to each one of them. And the guy just went off. He was like, why are you pulling up on me? Why are you pulling up on me? What about them? And I was like, absolutely, I was going to talk to them respectfully in the same way, and ask them also that they shouldn't be drinking in this public space in the city boundary. He's going off. He's going off. He thought, having a dig at him. You don't know what it's like. I have mental health. I said, yeah, you're right. I absolutely agree. I don't know what it's like, and we all have mental health. So you must be struggling with your mental health, is what you mean. Oh yeah, fucking. He's like swearing at me, going, oh, I've got schizophrenia. Check I've served time and all this. And I was like, all right, that's cool. I understand that you heard. Like, that must be really tough for you. Genuinely, like that, I wouldn't know what it's like to have schizophrenia. Must be really like a tough daily battle for you. And he just carried on. And part of me got frustrated, because I'm like, you're screaming and shouting at me, and you want empathy. But the reason why I started Enlighten the Shadows is for men like you and men like me, where we're suffering in silence because we're afraid of the confrontation. We're afraid of what people will think and say. And then there's people out there, with respect, I'm not invalidating what he's battling, but they shout. They want like approval and assurance. It's like, yeah, I'm giving you it, but you're still carrying on. You're making it more of a problem than it needs to be. And then it just frustrates me, because sometimes there's people that act even worse than that in society. And then, when you talk about, oh, I've got mental health struggles, then it makes it even harder for people like you and I and other men and women who are suffering in silence. And so actually what it does is go, oh shoot, I'm not going to bother with it. I'm just going to stay quiet. And like you hear it sometimes as well. It's like members of the public say, oh, it's used as a card, or you're playing the mental health card. And again, for me, that just puts me off wanting to ever talk about it, because you think, oh shoot, do they think, you start thinking in your head, do they think that I'm using it as a card? Like, because this is why I mention it. You are like me in so many ways. I know I don't know you intimately, but you really like get on with it. You're positive, you're assertive, try and make things all right. On the outside,
yeah,
you look fine, and that's half the problem, because you think, will they believe me because I look fine? And then in your quiet moments, and it's tough, bro. So thank you for sharing that, and it just helps me more and helps to encourage me and our mission, because I'm like, yeah, there's so many more like it. There's so many more men that are not crying from the rooftops, getting aggressive. I've got mental health. And it's like, yeah, like, but again, it's creating that safety net and that platform and environment like this podcast, where we can just go, yeah, man, like, I struggle with it, but I don't want to be like this.
No, and that's why it's so important to check on your happy mates as well. Check on, checking on everybody. But the guy that's always, happy-go-lucky guy, the guy that seems to have no problems, checking on them, because it could be that they're the ones that are just great at putting a front on, and some of us are great at putting a front on. And like you said, you would never. If someone says, "Oh, I've got mental health problems," I've got this, I've got that. You're never going to go, "I don't believe you." You haven't. But sometimes I feel like it muddies the water a little bit, and that
Mm.
the mental health card can get played too easy. It can
Yeah,
get, and like I said, I'm not downplaying anybody at all,
no,
but that card can get played, and that's probably what doesn't help, because, like you say, there's people there that are going, "Oh well, he's shouting about it. I'm not gonna bother," and it's clear that he's not suffering as much as he is, and no one's believing him. They're not going to believe me. But no, like I said, please check on your happy mates, check on the ones that are always cool, because they could be the ones.
quite a personal question, but I feel led to do it because I think there's men and women out there that might be watching this that are struggling like in the same kind of way, meaning not they'll have the exact same battle, but they're struggling to let on that they go through mental health struggles.
Mm.
Have you, in your working careers, I'm not so we don't single it out to the prison, in most of your working career, have you felt comfortable to take a day off sick because your mental health is really, really, really dominate and you're struggling to use your grounding techniques, you're struggling to manage it? So the best thing that's safe for you and people that you help, that you have the day off. Have you ever done that before?
I'm not taking like a single day off, but the Christmas just gone, I had to have a period of time off of work, because it just, and unfortunately, I got to the point where I did go pop. It wasn't, it just all fell apart, and I was going to be no good being there. But then, regardless, if you're helping other people, you've got to help yourself. You've got to look after yourself. You're no good, be it in a job that is looking after other people, or it's just for family. You need to be the best version of you. You've got to look after yourself. And there's nothing wrong with taking a day off work. There's nothing wrong with taking going to the doctor and saying, "This is how I am. This is how I'm feeling. I need time off." You've got to look after yourself, because being in the darkest place that you possibly could be, you don't want to get there and stay there. You need to look after number one.
100%. And everyone is replaceable. Not 9 out of 10, but 10 out of 10, everyone is replaceable. And if
Yeah.
we don't actually take care of ourselves, like you've alluded to, like it will fall apart. Like you said, it will pop. And like sometimes you have to learn the hard way. I did it with burnout. Like I got utterly burnt out, and I can't describe it with words what it feels like. But you get to a certain point where you don't feel tired anymore.
Yeah.
It's like you're grey, like
Yeah.
you're just in a dream. It's
Hmm.
quite dangerous. And I took on things trying to do the right thing, and I was abandoning my own needs, and I wasn't communicating it because I thought I'll be all right, pushed it down, I'll be all right, and then bang, and I was off for like 3 weeks, and I felt guilty even being off, because I love work. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Like I say, it's tough. You've got to look after number one, though.
Did you so learning the hard way, was that a moment in your life that was defining part where you go, right, that's my rock bottom, and or was there other moments that you want to bravely share with our viewers about when you kind of hit rock bottom in your life and what you went through, and then how did you get back up?
Yeah. So for me, it wasn't necessarily one trigger. It was probably a lot of triggers. I lost my grandparents quite close together. Um, and again, the job that I do, unfortunately, it makes you suppress a lot of feelings. You see a lot of things that are just not normal, that you normalize. And unbelievably close to my grandparents, and I haven't shed a single tear. I can't seem to, how you would normally grieve, but losing them, then there was the breakup of my relationship with my ex-partner, who I have a son with. And growing up with like I said, phenomenal stepdad that I class as my dad, but not having my biological dad in my life, hardly at all. The one thing that I vowed when my son was born was I was never going to be a part-time dad. But unfortunately, circumstances change, and you know that you have to do the right thing, because him being brought up in the right environment is the most important thing, and that relationship ended amicably. We still are, and that's the right thing for our son. But, we made the decision to go our separate ways, and then come the chat with him of explaining the situation, and we said together, look, we'll tell him together. And that chat ended with me saying everything and her saying nothing. And it'll, being honest, it will haunt me forever, sitting there and saying, look, mummy and daddy have decided not to be boyfriend and girlfriend anymore. We've decided to be friends, and watching his face and his whole world fall apart.
Oh,
that like I said, that gets me now, and it'll get me forever. And he's in a great place now, and the relationship we've got and he's got with his mum and everything, you look back now and you go, do you know what, it was the best call, because he is such a happy lad. He's absolutely phenomenal. But it's just one thing in life that I never wanted, and having to have that chat on my own and watch, like I say, watching his face, drop and just cry uncontrollably, and it just, that's one thing that really, I don't think I'll ever get over, if I'm honest. A lot with certain battles and mental health and whatever else, you learn to manage those emotions and those feelings, and it's something that that I've can manage now. But that was definitely probably the biggest trigger. And being, when was this was so beginning of 2020, so a couple of years ago now, and moving back to my parents when that's not what I thought was going to happen, and what they thought was going to happen, and but that was definitely something that, like I say, was probably the biggest trigger. And with work, and like I say, describing it as the pretender, and leading up to that point where I, as I describe it, went pop, a few days before, I kind of felt okay, but I felt something wasn't right, and I was still in control, but it felt like my heart was just, I was having times when my heart just felt like it was going to come out of it, pop out my chest. And it just got to one evening, and I was on a late at work, and just my head had just gone, but I still at this point didn't understand what was going on. And I come back from work, and I come in and said, look, I'm not hungry, I'm going for a shower, and I'm just going to bed. And if I'm honest, a lot of it is quite a blur from there. I just completely uncontrollable. Just I can remember the feeling of just not being able to breathe, and now knowing it was now a massive anxiety attack. And it went on for about an hour and a half, 2 hours, and the only thing that I could manage to do in that time, it sounds daft, was grab my phone, text my mum, who was downstairs, and go, my mental health isn't in a great place, I need help. And for them to to come up, and on the son, to see me in that state, it was still that point where it sounds daft, but like, I felt for them, like, you're going to have to deal with my breakdown now, that's not fair on you. But for them to see me in that state, and my dad had to decided to make that call to 111, to get some advice, because I was just, like I say, it's quite a blur, but just I'd gone, that was it. And to to then have the people on the other end of the phone ask some really, really difficult questions for anyone to answer, but then they're coming through your parents. So for them to ask, does he have any suicidal thoughts? So my parents have no idea that anything's going on. They know that I'm kind of suffering because of my relationship with my son. I wanted, it's that's taken a massive toll, but they didn't know anything else was going on, you know. And for them to ask my dad on the phone, you know, it's on loudspeaker, and say, has he got any suicidal thoughts? And for me to have to say yes, you know, does he feel like harming himself? You know, does he feel like going through with these thoughts, and having to, you know, say, you know, yes. Has he planned it? Yes. You know, looking back now, it's great to get everything out, because I've managed to build myself back up from there. But hitting rock bottom and getting to the point of having to disclose to, you know, your parents and the ones that love you that, yes, I have had suicidal thoughts. Yes, I have planned what I'm going to do, you know.
Yeah.
But do I feel like going through with it? No, because although that I was as low as I think I possibly could go, you know, my parents, my son, my now girlfriend, my grandparents, my sisters, my brother, just everybody, just those little things, just hanging on to those things,
That's right.
stopped me from going through it. And it sounds daft, but sometimes confronting what, this is going to sound really weird, but confronting what you plan to do, sometimes it helped a little bit. So I'll be completely honest, because this is what I wanted to do on
That's
here.
great, man. Yeah.
You know, I running, and I ran over the same bridge every day,
Yeah.
and that was it. And I remember getting to just before this and thinking that's what I'm going to do, and running over that bridge and being scared stiff, like it absolutely terrified me. But that gave me hope, because it scared me that much.
Yeah.
I knew that I was that low, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it,
Wow.
you know, to those that love me. And although being at work and dealing with those sorts of people, it also kind of, I had to tap into my own advice, and, you know, giving these people the advice that are in that place, you know, what's that going to do to your family?
Yeah.
And it just made me think, I can't do that. I can't have my son growing up with, you know, the one you know, his dad committed suicide. You know, I couldn't do that. You know, and he won't mind me saying as well. You know, it was really hard to open up to my my dad, as I call him, because his brother committed suicide. You
Oh
know, so
wow. Yeah. See.
that that was
Yeah.
really, really hard, because he doesn't I feel like I think spoke about it to my mum, but not in depth. He's never really opened up about it, so I didn't want to then open up that box for him and kind of go through it all again.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, that's like I say, that night was the night where it all completely and utterly fell apart. But like I say, then that's when I thought, I've got to make a change.
Come on.
Everything's out there. It's time to rebuild, and
That's
it
right.
takes time, and it's not that easy. You know, weeks, months afterwards were literally the hardest, but you will get there. You've just got to keep going.
Come on. 100%, bro. And then massive, massive respect for sharing that on camera to us and for our viewers. Like, you've got big balls, bro, and you've got a big heart, and it's class that you've gone there, because it can be painful. It can be really painful when you think, wow, I was really that low, and it must have been really horrific for those people around me. And but you know what? Sometimes the selfless people like you and I can be, we sometimes do need to take a moment for ourselves and stop overthinking and thinking, right, what are they going to think? Oh, sometimes like your mother and father wouldn't have liked that, of course not, but it would have been a privilege to them because they love you so much. That's what parents do. They look, you know, like what would you do for your little boy in, you know, 15 years time, God forbid, but retrospectively, if he felt the same or was going through the same, you would be putting your arm around him, like
Yeah,
assuring him more than anything. So, you know, it's just that's the hard thing with when you're battling mental health like that, when it's that strong and it's that dark, like it really it skews your thinking of how others perceive you as well and how you perceive yourself. You can go and we're so hard on ourselves. We're so hard on ourselves, and I want to encourage the viewers, like, please don't be so hard on yourself. Like, the world out there is hard enough as it is. You know, there's critics everywhere. It's all online as well, and you know, the best thing you can do for yourself is being kind to yourself as well. And you know, if you ever feel like the things that Ian's bravely shared right now, like, just get in touch with us. We'll put on the screen. We've got a group, and it's not an irregular thing. We've had one this week publicly on our group, in the private settings that is, but publicly in front of hundreds of blokes, giving himself a timeline of when he's going to die. And you know, we just poured love on him, and then we've gone in and intervened on the DMs, and he's all right again. He's doing good, and he just had a really bad blip. And I won't go into any more because I don't want to break confidence, but there's some things that had happened, and you know, some lessons learned. Not that he's in the wrong or it's his fault, but we get back up again, as Ian said. So yeah, we're just hoping that this podcast and this chat is equipping you, skilling you, empowering you, blessing you, because this is what it's about. Like, people like him on this camera right now putting everything on the line, and it's essentially for you guys watching it, it's to help. And then, you know, we have it quite regularly where people say if it just helps that one person, it's worth it. And you know, if you are that one person, just as I say on that screen there, just get in touch with us. We'll be honored to help you, and we do it for free, and that's why it's a privilege. So yeah, man, thank you for sharing all of that. And you know, you're saying that you've got a partner now, which is amazing. Your son's relationship is good. Life seems like it's on the up, and you know, you've had to put the work in. But have you got anything recently that you've battled with? Any recent triggers or something that you want to share that might give insight or enlighten our viewers?
Yeah, so you know, when you go through this as well, you learn to look after yourself, but you've got to be aware that there's going to be triggers out there, and there's things that are going to take you aback, and you've got to, you know, you've got to learn from those. And this was a work colleague of mine took his own life. You know, there was other things behind it. He just been diagnosed with cancer, and you know, it was terminal, but he made that decision to end his own life and leave behind, you know, his wife. You know, he had children, he had grandchildren, and again, because you feel bad, because you feel selfish for having these thoughts, but it hit me really, really hard, because I was that low, but I couldn't go through with it. So how did he feel that he went through with it? And that
Yeah,
really took me aback, and that really kind of made me think of, like, what mindset and what place was he in, although he's had the awful news that, you know, it's, you know, his cancer's terminal. He still made that decision to end his own life. And you know, he wrote a note, you know, he left flowers for his wife, and he did what he did. But just to, it really, you know, it was really difficult to kind of deal with that he was in that place and went through with it, because regardless, to get to that point where you do end it, yeah.
that's yeah, that's a great point. There's people out there that, you know, it's not a comparison game, but they get to that point where they're convinced, they're utterly
Yeah.
convinced, and they do it, and you go, wow, that's where we got to get intervention in there. And it's almost like not a reactive strategy, but a proactive strategy, where all the work we're doing in this chat, where we can just slowly break down those barriers so that it's not a slippery slope. Because it is, like, you don't just go, oh, I'm suicidal, like, out of nowhere. Like you say, there's triggers that you identify, there's traumas, there's grievances, and those things all add up. And eventually, when the penny drops, the penny drops, and we got to get in there quick and intervene. And unfortunately, that's why 4,303 men do it a year, and 100% of them are preventable. 100%. It's not like COVID or cancer or other diseases where it's more complicated than that, because you know, it's a cellular thing. Whereas this is a social thing. This is through chatting. This is through love. This is through relationships. This is through trust. It can be stopped. So thank you again for sharing that, bro. And sending you positive vibes. And if you ever need to chat about any of those stuff, like just DM me. I know we've DM'd quite a lot in the last few weeks. It's been class. And you know, again, I just say it on camera. You remind me of myself a lot. You put others first. Like I see you constantly encouraging people online and bigging them up. And yeah, just make sure that you pat yourself on the back as well, because you do phenomenal things. And we didn't even get to talk about your running. I've made this all about running and stuff, but like, you know, it's good because running's therapeutic for me, and I'm sure you, running's quality, but there's many people who run and go to the gym who still can't admit that they're struggling with their mental health. Like, a lot of people say it's a cure. It's not. It's a very good strategy to help keep your mind locked in, and you know, as a distraction mechanism, and it boosts your mental well-being. But if you don't get to the triggers, this is what I love about this chat, brother. If you don't get to those triggers, those things that bring it up, stir it up, and if you don't deal with them, you can do all your marathons all you want. This is my stance. I don't know what yours is on all that as a runner and stuff like that.
Do you know, it's a coping strategy for me. It's, you know, it's that time alone, that time to process thoughts. It's that time to, you know, be alone and, you know, have that time for you. It never started off like that, if I'm honest. You know, when I first started, this come back to when I split up with my ex-partner, and you know, when I wasn't seeing my son every day, I see him probably, you know, 3 times a week. But I thought, all right, I've got 4 days where I can sit around and mope, or I've got 4 days where I can get up and do something. You know, and I messaged a mate of mine, you know, like I say, he's another one that used to be, I think you'll know where he is now, managing. You know, he used to be a pro footballer, and I messaged him going, right, you know, you need to kind of help me out. And you know, I was 16 stone 7. I couldn't run, not at all, you know, but he got me out, and I got started running. I got the bug. Yeah, just literally just carried on running. And then, you know, I didn't want this to be a diet. I thought, right, this is a chance for a lifestyle change and to
This is
just
good.
change things around. And, you know, that was January last year that I started. I'm still going, but yeah, 16 stone 7 when I started, and I'm 11 stone 3 now. A different man, and just keep plodding away.
How tall are you?
5'7".
Oh, so we're about the same height. Yeah, so I'm 12 stone 2, and I'm not got hardly anything on me. And so you've done freaking really good. Like, you've done really well. That is incredible. Like, I put on 3 or 4 pounds, and it usually goes to the side of my hips, like love handles, and I'm like, yo, this is horrible. And first lockdown, I had that happen to me, brother, and I was really struggling with it. My libido was low. I was just no energy. Didn't want to work out. And it's the first time in my life's ever happened. Played football in my life, done athletics, done running, nothing there, and I had to turn it around as well, man. So you've done way better than I did. So I'm like, wow, that is incredible. So respect, mate. Kudos.
Thank you. But no,
Yeah.
it's just about getting it done. It's just about, do you know what I mean? And it makes you feel so much better when you've done that run and you smashed it out, and you just feel 10 times better. But just, you know, like I say, I wanted to lose some weight, and I just, you know, I don't like to keep an eye on the scales too much, but that's a bit of an indicator that you're doing things the right way. But yeah, it just kept coming off, and yeah, it's like 6 days a week, minimum of 6 miles at a time, and just keep plodding away. It's nothing spectacular, but like I say, it's more that it's just my time for me. It's my time where I can go and process things, because, you know, I never processed things before. Just boxing things off didn't work for me, but processing those thoughts in the correct way, you know, and that's my time when I run, and yeah, it's just my thing.
Nah, that's sick, man. We'll have to talk more. Maybe like run the half marathon in Nottingham in September.
Yeah,
Robin
definitely.
Hood. So I did that. It was sick. I did that as a training session for my marathon. So
Yeah.
I freaking loved it. Yeah, I'd love to attack that with you and see if we can get like sub 150, sub 145, something like that.
You said that's a half.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I did London Landmarks half marathon earlier in the year, and I did that
Yeah.
in 142.
Is that
So
your
if we-
PB?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
if we can get under-
we'll go sub 140, me and you.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll do it,
definitely.
100%.
Yeah,
Let's
man.
get on that. Look at that, there we go, sorting it. Let's make a bro deal on camera.
Yeah,
We're accountable.
you've committed to it on camera now.
There's no going back. That's class, man. But yeah, just quickly before we finish up, bro, on this episode 55, can you share one small piece of advice for a bloke, you know, who's, because we've talked about it a lot, bravely. It's been a big theme, you know, suicide and triggers. Can you share a bit of advice for someone who's feeling that way as they're watching this?
There's a quote that I really liked towards the beginning that I kind of stick to, and that quote is, if you're going through hell, keep on going. You know, if you're going through a tough time, just keep going. You will get there. You know, keep going. Reach out. Know that you talking about your mental health struggles makes you the bravest person in the world. There's nothing weak about saying that I feel this way or I feel that way. Reach out. There's channels like yourselves and, you know, other channels out there that will listen. But just, yeah, if you're going, like I say, if you're going through hell, just keep going.
100%. I love that. Thank you for that. It's like every rain cloud or every storm runs out of water. Like, we don't feel it in the moment. We feel like, oh my gosh, when is this ever going to end? But it does. It does. So thank you, bro. Thank you for coming on, guys. Thank you for being on this episode and watching it this far. Throughout this episode, we have put Ian's Twitter handle on there, so we'll put it on right now. And check it out. Follow him. And also, as I said at the start, subscribe to the channel, please, so we can get to as many men on YouTube world as possible. There's millions. There's millions out there. So yeah, give us a subscribe. Watch this episode all the way through again if you need to, just to enforce all of those quality points that Ian's made. And we've obviously done 54 previous ones. So check all them out. There's some bangers on there. All right, guys, we appreciate you. Have a good rest of the week. Cheers, Ian, mate.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.